In a small coffee shop on the outskirts of Chicago, 16-year-old Marcus Jones hunched over his sketchbook, carefully shading the portrait of an elderly woman at the corner table. His drawings, the one escaped from his otherwise troubled life before. We continue this incredible story of talent discovered in the most unexpected moment. Please subscribe to our channel now for more inspirational tales of ordinary people experiencing extraordinary twists of fate. Manager had repeatedly told Marcus to stop sketching customers, calling it creepy and bad for business, despite the fact that several regulars actually enjoyed watching the quiet teenager transform blank pages into striking likenesses with nothing but a pencil and raw talent. When Marcus finished the elderly woman's portrait and shyly offered it to her, the manager intercepted it, ripping the drawing from his hands and tossing it into the trash can with a dismissive laugh. What no one realized as this humiliation unfolded was that the man who had just walked in wearing a worn leather jacket and carrying a portfolio was Jonathan Myers, one of the most celebrated portrait artists in the country, whose work commanded six-figure sums and whose eye for undiscovered talent had launched a dozen successful careers. Jonathan Myers had come to the Grindstone coffee shop by chance, a last-minute decision while driving through this unfamiliar neighborhood on his way back from a meeting with a collector. He needed caffeine for the drive downtown, but what he found was far more valuable. "Excuse me." Jonathan's voice cut through the uncomfortable silence that had fallen after the manager's actions. "What do you think you're doing?" The manager, a heavy-set man with a perpetually sour expression, turned with practiced customer service politeness that faltered when he recognized the speaker. "Mr. Myers, what an honor to have you in our establishment. I had no idea." Jonathan ignored him, walking directly to the trash can and carefully retrieving the crumpled drawing, smoothing it against his leather portfolio, studying it with intense focus. The hushed whispers around the coffee shop confirmed what Marcus had initially missed in his embarrassment. "This wasn't just any customer. You threw this away?" Jonathan asked, looking between the drawing and Marcus, who stood frozen behind the counter, his face burning with humiliation. "Just enforcing our employee policy," the manager stammered, distracting from his actual work. "You understand." Jonathan turned to Marcus. "Did you draw this?" Marcus nodded, unable to find his voice, the tall stranger's piercing gaze seeming to see right through him. "With what? What materials?" "Just a 2B pencil," Marcus finally managed, gesturing to the basic mechanical pencil sticking out of his apron pocket. "Nothing special." Jonathan studied the drawing again, a remarkably sensitive portrait capturing not just the elderly woman's features, but something of her essence, the slight melancholy around her eyes, the dignified tilt of her chin, details most casual observers would miss, but that revealed the soul behind the face. "Nothing special," Jonathan repeated softly, "yet you've captured more humanity in this 5-minute sketch than many trained artists achieve in finished works." He turned to the manager. "I'd like to speak with this young man privately, please." The manager's demeanor shifted instantly. "Of course, Mr. Myers." "Marcus, take your break now." He practically pushed Marcus from behind. "The counter, use my office in the back." Marcus followed Jonathan to the small, cluttered office, his mind racing. Surely this was some elaborate prank, maybe orchestrated by the seniors who sometimes bullied him at school, yet the way the manager had reacted suggested this man was genuinely someone important. "I'm Jonathan Myers," the man said once they were seated, confirming what Marcus had begun to suspect. "I'm an artist. I work primarily in portraiture, though I dabble in other forms." Marcus swallowed hard. Even he, with his limited exposure to the art world, knew that name Jonathan Myers was to portraiture what LeBron James was to basketball. His work hung in major museums. His waiting list for commissions was years long. His pieces sold for more than Marcus's grandmother would make in a decade. "I know who you are, sir," Marcus replied. "I've seen your work in books at the library." Jonathan smiled. "Do you have more drawings I can see? A sketchbook, perhaps?" Marcus hesitated. His sketchbook was private, personal, filled with not just technical exercises, but emotional expressions, pieces of his soul transferred to paper. "I don't usually show people my work, the mark of a true artist." Jonathan nodded, understanding. "But I'd very much like to see more if you're willing." Something in the man's tone, gentle, respectful, without condescension, made Marcus reach into his backpack and withdraw a worn spiral-bound sketchbook, its cover decorated with stickers and doodles. He handed it over, still uncertain but somehow trusting this stranger. Jonathan opened it carefully, treating the humble sketchbook with the same reverence he might accord a rare manuscript, his expression growing more intense as he turned each page. Portraits of coffee shop customers, yes, but also urban landscapes, homeless people sleeping in doorways, his grandmother's hands gnarled with arthritis, a self-portrait remarkable in its unflinching honesty. "How long have you been drawing?" Jonathan asked without looking up. "Always, I guess, since I could hold a pencil, but seriously, for about 3 years training." Marcus shook his head. "Just books, YouTube, some free community center classes when I can make it." Jonathan looked up sharply. "No formal instruction, no art school?" "Can't afford it," Marcus said simply. "I work here after school to help my grandmother with bills." Jonathan closed the sketchbook, handing it back with noticeable reluctance. You have extraordinary talent, Marcus. Genuine raw talent combined with clearly dedicated practice, and most importantly, a unique perspective, a way of seeing humanity that can't be taught. Marcus stared at his worn sneakers, uncomfortable with praise. He rarely received it and wasn't sure how to respond. Thanks, he mumbled. I'd like to help you develop this gift. Jonathan continued, I teach occasionally, mostly at university level, but sometimes I take on private students. People with exceptional potential. Marcus looked up suspicion. Blooming, why would you want to help me? You don't even know me, Jonathan considered the question. Because talent like yours deserves nurturing. Because I recognize in your work echoes of my own early drawings. Because I grew up not unlike you, in circumstances that made art seem an impossible dream. He reached into his pocket, withdrawing a business card. I have a studio downtown. I'm there most afternoons. Would you consider coming by, showing me more of your work, allowing me to offer some guidance? Marcus took the card, turning it over in his hands, the heavy cardstock embossed with Jonathan's name and contact. Information felt like a ticket to another world, a world he had only imagined. I don't know what to say you'll think. About it, Jonathan stood, preparing to leave and keep drawing no matter what anyone tells you, including managers who throw your work in the trash. After Jonathan left, Marcus stared at the card until his manager barked at him to get back to work. His mind spinning with possibilities and doubts, equal parts hope and suspicion. He'd had people express interest in his art before, only to disappoint him. A teacher who promised to help him apply for a summer program, then forgot. A local shop owner, who said he'd display some pieces but never followed through. Life had taught Marcus that opportunities rarely materialized, especially for kids from his neighborhood. An evening in the small apartment he shared with his grandmother, Marcus finally showed her the card, telling her about the strange encounter. His famous grandma. Like really famous, his paintings sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Gloria Jones. A small woman with keen eyes and a backbone of steel, despite her health problems. Studied the card, and he wants to teach you. For free? Marcus shrugged. He didn't mention money, but yeah, I guess. Saul said I have extraordinary talent. He made air quotes around the words, still unable to fully believe them. Gloria was quiet. For a moment, your mother had that talent too? You know, could draw anything she saw, put it right down on paper like a photograph. Her eyes grew distant, remembering her daughter, who had died when Marcus was just 4. Never got the chance to develop it though. Life got in the way. You think I should go? Marcus asked, trusting his grandmother's judgment more than anyone. Clear handed back the card. I think opportunities don't knock often in neighborhoods like ours, Marcus. And when they do, you'd be a fool not to at least open the door and see what's on the other side. She smiled, her face crinkling with warmth. Just be smart about it. Take your phone, call me if anything feels wrong, and remember, no matter what fancy artists say, you've already got something special no one can take away. Marcus nodded, tucking the card carefully into his sketchbook. I'll think about it. But later that night, as he sketched by the light of his desk lamp, capturing Jonathan Myers' intense expression. From memory, Marcus knew he had already made his decision. He would go, not necessarily because he believed in Jonathan's praise, but because for the first time someone who actually understood art, someone who lived in that seemingly impossible world, had seen his work and deemed it worthwhile. That validation alone was worth the risk. The address on Jonathan's business card led Marcus to a converted warehouse in the West Lupe neighborhood. So different from his own, it might as well have been another country. Trendy restaurants and boutiques lined streets were well. Professionals walked purposefully. Marcus felt conspicuously out of place in his faded jeans and hoodie, clutching his sketchbook to his chest like a shield. Building's lobby featured polished concrete floors and exposed brick walls, a sleek security desk where a uniformed guard checked IDs. Marcus approached hesitantly. I'm here to see Jonathan Myers. I'm Marcus Jones. The guard nodded, consulting a list. Yes, Mr. Myers is expecting you, 5th floor, studio 507. He handed Marcus a visitor badge. Elevators to your right. The elevator ride gave Marcus time to second-guess himself. This had to be some kind of mistake or elaborate joke. Why would someone like Jonathan Myers take interest in a nobody from the south side? His finger hovered over the lobby button, tempted to retreat to the familiar safety of his neighborhood, but the memory of his grandmother's words kept him in place. Opportunities don't knock often in neighborhoods like ours. Studio 507 had a simple plaque beside the door. Jonathan Myers' studio. Marcus knocked, his heart pounding. Footsteps approached, and then Jonathan himself opened the door, sleeves rolled up, hands smudged with charcoal. Marcus's face brightened. You came. Excellent. Come in, please. The studio took Marcus's breath away. A vast open space with soaring ceilings and windows that flooded the room with natural light. Easels were positioned throughout, some holding works in progress, others blank and waiting. Canvases of various sizes leaned against walls. A large work table dominated the center, covered with sketches, drawings, and art supplies of every description. This is incredible, Marcus whispered, forgetting his nervousness. Momentarily, Danon smiled, watching the boy's reaction. It's taken me 20 years to work up to this space. I started in a converted garage with barely enough room to stretch my arms. Marcus wandered slowly, taking everything in, stopping in front of a large portrait, nearly finished, a young woman with striking features rendered in oils with such depth and dimension, she seemed about to step from the canvas. "This is amazing, the way you captured the light in her eyes." "Thank you," Jonathan gestured to a stool near the work table. "Make yourself comfortable. Can I get you something to drink? Water? Coffee?" "Water's fine." Marcus perched on the stool, still clutching his sketchbook. Jonathan brought 2 bottles of water, setting one before Marcus. "Did you bring more work to show me?" Marcus nodded, holding out his sketchbook, still uncertain but less afraid than he had been. "I brought this, and also..." He reached into his backpack, pulling out a folder, some finished pieces. Jonathan accepted both with visible eagerness. Settling onto a stool across from Marcus, he opened the folder first, examining each drawing with careful attention, occasionally making soft sounds of approval. "Your understanding of facial structure is remarkable, especially for someone without formal training." He looked up. "How did you learn this?" Marcus shrugged. "I checked out anatomy books from the library, practiced a lot, drew people whenever I could, mostly at the coffee shop or on the bus, sometimes from photographs when I couldn't find live subjects. Self-taught through sheer determination." Jonathan nodded appreciatively, turning to the sketchbook, exploring each page with the same focused intensity he had shown at the coffee shop. "These quick studies, they're extraordinary. You captured gesture and essence so quickly. It usually takes years of training to develop that skill." Marcus felt warmth spreading through his chest at the praise, though he still struggled to believe it. "I've always been able to see things that way. I guess how people hold themselves, what makes them unique." Jonathan set the sketchbook aside, fixing Marcus with his penetrating gaze. "Why portraits? What draws you to the human face above other subjects?" The question caught Marcus off guard. No one had ever asked about his motivations before. "I don't know exactly," he began, then paused, reconsidering. "Actually, I think it's because faces tell stories. Every line, every expression reveals something about who that person is, what they've experienced. I lost my mom when I was little. I don't remember her face clearly except from photographs drawing people. Feels like preserving them somehow, making sure they're seen, really seen." Jonathan nodded slowly. "That's the heart of portraiture, Marcus. Not just technical reproduction, but truly seeing another human being, and translating that vision to paper or canvas." He stood abruptly. "Come, look at something." He led Marcus to a large flat file, opening a drawer to reveal dozens of sketches. "These are some of my early works from before I had any formal training." Marcus leaned in, amazed to see the similarities to his own style, the same intensity of observation, though less refined than Jonathan's current work. "These are incredible. They're promising," Jonathan corrected. "Just as yours are promising. They show potential talent, raw and undeveloped. When I was your age, I was working as a dishwasher in a diner, sketching customers on napkins and receipt paper. Whatever I could find." Marcus looked up, surprised. "Really? But you're famous? Successful?" Jonathan smiled. "Now, yes, but then I was just a kid with an obsession, living with my uncle after my parents died, drawing constantly because it was the only thing that made sense in my world." The revelation shifted something in Marcus's perception. This wasn't charity or a whim. Jonathan saw himself in Marcus, recognized a shared path. "How did you get from there to here?" he asked, gesturing to the impressive studio. "Hard work, endless practice, a few lucky breaks, and eventually, a mentor who saw potential in me just as I see it in you." Jonathan closed the drawer. "I'd like to work with you, Marcus. Regular sessions where I can guide your development, introduce you to new techniques, materials, approaches. Would you be interested?" Marcus nodded immediately. "Yes, absolutely. But..." he hesitated. "I can't pay for lessons. I barely make enough at the coffee shop to help my grandmother with rent and her medications." Jonathan waved away the concern. "I'm not interested in payment. I mentor very selectively, only when I encounter exceptional talent." He moved to a supply cabinet, opening it to reveal neatly organized materials. "Today, let's start with proper tools. You've been creating remarkable work with basic supplies. Imagine what you might achieve with professional materials." The next 2 hours passed in a blur as Jonathan introduced Marcus to different pencils, explaining the graphite grading system, demonstrating techniques for achieving various effects. He showed Marcus how to use charcoal, vine, and compressed, teaching in him about blending stumps and kneaded erasers as tools, not just for corrections, but for creating highlights and texture. "Your instincts are excellent," Jonathan observed, watching Marcus experiment with the new materials. "You're naturally doing things that took me years to learn." Marcus lost himself in the process, the familiar comfort of drawing, enhanced by tools that responded with greater subtlety and range than his simple mechanical pencil had ever allowed. He barely noticed time passing until Jonathan glanced at his watch. "We should probably wrap up for today," he said, "but I'd like you to take these supplies home, practice with them, bring what you create to our next session, say Thursday afternoon." Marcus looked at the collection of professional materials. "I can't accept all this, it's too much." "Consider it an investment in your development," Jonathan insisted, packing the supplies into a carrying case. Every artist needs proper tools. As Marcus prepared to leave, clutching the case of art supplies like a precious treasure, Jonathan asked, "One more thing. Have you ever considered art school? Your talent merits formal education." Marcus shook his head. Can't afford it, and anyway I need to work help support my grandmother. Jonathan seemed to be calculating something. There are scholarships, financial aid opportunities we should discuss at some point, but for now, let's focus on developing your portfolio. He walked Marcus to the door. Thursday at 4. I'll be here, Marcus promised, already mentally rearranging his work schedule to accommodate the section writing. The bus home, Marcus felt as though he was returning from another planet. The weight of the art supplies in his lap, a tangible reminder that the experience had been real. His mind was buzzing with new techniques, new possibilities. A door had opened just as his grandmother had said, and he had stepped through into a world he had only dreamed about. Before he at home, he spread the supplies across his small desk, examining each pencil, each tool with reverence before opening his sketchbook to a fresh page, eager to apply what he had learned. When his grandmother peeked in later that evening, she found him completely absorbed, his face illuminated not just by the desk lamp, but by a new intensity of purpose. 3 weeks into his mentorship with Jonathan, Marcus's art underwent a transformation that couldn't be hidden. His sketchbook now filled with studies that showed growing technical skill alongside his natural talent for capturing human emotion. His art teacher, Miss Patel, noticed the change immediately during their Wednesday afternoon class. Marcus, these studies are remarkably advanced, she said, examining his recent work as students around them chatted while completing their assignments. There's a significant leap in your understanding of structure and shading techniques. Where did this come from? Marcus hesitated, unsure how much to share about Jonathan's mentorship. Miss Patel had always been kind, encouraging his talent, even when he refused to participate in class exhibitions or competitions. I've been practicing more, getting some advice. Ms. Patel raised an eyebrow, clearly sensing there was more to the story. Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. Your portfolio would be competitive for art school scholarships. Have you considered applying? The familiar discomfort rose in Marcus's chest. Art school was a fantasy, as impossible as living on the moon. Can't afford it. He mumbled his standard response. There are options, Marcus. Full scholarships, financial aid, especially for students with your level of talent. She held up his latest drawing, a portrait of an elderly man that captured not just his features, but the weight of his years, the quiet dignity in his eyes. This is exceptional work, not just technically, but emotionally. You have a gift for seeing people, truly seeing them. It was nearly the same thing Jonathan had said. Marcus realized the validation from two separate art professionals, stirring something in him, a fragile hope he tried to suppress. I'll think about it, he offered, wanting to end the conversations. Patel seemed to understand his discomfort. Well, my door is always open if you want to discuss possibilities. She returned his sketchbook, and Marcus, consider submitting work to the spring art show. You might be surprised at the response at the Grindstone coffee shop. Marcus's improving skills had also created a shift in dynamics. The manager, Rick, who had once thrown his drawing in the trash, now treated him with cautious respect. Ever since Jonathan Myers's visit, customers had been asking about the artistic barista, some even requesting sketches, which Rick no longer discouraged. That lady at table 7 asked if you'd draw her daughter, Rick mentioned during a slow afternoon shift, nodding toward a woman with a toddler. Said she'd pay $20. Marcus glanced over, assessing the child's animated features, the way light caught in her curls. I'm on shift, Rick shrugged. Take 15 minutes, we're slow anyway. His expression turned, calculating. Maybe we should advertise this. Make it a thing, you know. Get your portrait with your latte could bring in customers. Marcus bit back a retort about how this was a dramatic change from creepy and bad for business. Instead, he took his break, drawing the little girl who could barely sit still. The challenge of capturing a moving subject, actually improving the result, making the portrait dynamic, alive with childlike energy. When he presented it to the mother, her delighted gasp, and the $20 bill pressed into his hand confirmed what Jonathan had been telling him. His art had value, real, tangible value. Later that evening in his room, Marcus opened his laptop, logging into the Etsy shop he'd created 6 months ago. Marcus made this where he sold small sketches and digital art pieces. The shop had been a modest success, bringing in enough extra money to help with his grandmother's medication and occasionally treat himself to art supplies he couldn't otherwise afford. He uploaded photos of his recent work, including digital pieces he created using a graphics tablet he'd saved for months to buy. The contrast between his traditional and digital art had always interested him. In person, he worked primarily in pencil and charcoal, capturing reality with meticulous attention, but digitally he allowed himself more freedom, creating stylized illustrations, vibrant with color and movement. Jonathan hadn't yet seen this side of his work, the digital pieces feeling too commercial, too unserious compared to the fine art focus of their session. His phone buzzed with a text from Jonathan bringing someone to tomorrow's session. Fellow artist Sophia Jung, okay with you? Marcus felt immediate anxiety at the thought of another person observing his work, particularly someone from Jonathan's professional circle, but he texted back, sure, not wanting to disappoint his mentor. Next afternoon in Jonathan's studio, Marcus found himself face-to-face with Sophia Jung, a young Asian-American woman with purple-streaked hair and an array of tattoos peeking from beneath her rolled-up sleeves, her friendly smile easing his initial nervousness. Marcus Finally, she exclaimed, shaking his hand enthusiastically. John's been talking about you nonstop. His amazing discovery. Thought he might be exaggerating, but she gestured to the drawings spread across the work table. Clearly he wasn't. Jonathan chuckled. Sophia was my student 8 years ago now. She's a successful illustrator. With major publishing houses and advertising clients, Sophia rolled her eyes. Successful enough to pay rent, which in this city is saying something. She focused on Marcus. John says you're entirely self-taught. That's seriously impressive. Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with praise. YouTube books, practice, and raw talent, Jonathan added. Marcus has an exceptional eye, particularly for portraiture. Sophia nodded, studying his work. Absolutely, I can see that. But John mentioned you might also do digital work. I'd love to see that side of your portfolio. Marcus hesitated, looking to Jonathan, who nodded encouragingly. I brought my tablet, he said, reaching into his backpack, pulling out a well-worn graphics tablet and connecting it to Jonathan's computer. Digital pieces were a revelation even to Jonathan, who watched with growing amazement as Marcus navigated through his portfolio. Vibrant illustrations, stylized portraits, animated character designs, work that showed not just technical skill but creative imagination and commercial instinct. Marcus, Jonathan said finally, why didn't you show me these before? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Didn't think they were serious enough. Just stuff I do for fun or to sell online. Sophia laughed. Not serious, kid. These are professional quality illustrations. Major studios would kill for this kind of talent. She turned to Jonathan. Did you know about this? Jonathan shook his head. Marcus has depths. I'm still discovering apparently. How much do you make selling these? Sophia asked, examining a particularly striking digital portrait. Not much, Marcus admitted. Couple hundred a month when I'm lucky. Helps with bills. Sophia and Jonathan exchanged looks. You've been selling your work online? Jonathan asked. Marcus nodded. Etsy shop, small commissions. Nothing major. Sophia pulled out her phone. What's your shop called? I need to see this. Marcus made this, he replied, embarrassed by the simple name. Sophia typed quickly, then left out a low whistle, scrolling through his listings. Jonathan, he's got over 2,000 sales, 5-star reviews, commissioned work, waiting list. She looked up at Marcus. You've built a legitimate business here, entirely on your own. Marcus had never thought of his Etsy shop as a business, just a way to make extra money doing something. He enjoyed the perspective shift. Was disorienting. This changes things, Jonathan said thoughtfully. Your talent spans traditional and digital realms, fine art, and commercial applications. That's exceptionally rare, especially in someone your age. Sophia nodded. And incredibly marketable. You could be working professionally right now if you wanted. Agencies, publishers, game studios, they all need this kind of versatile talent. Marcus felt overwhelmed by their reactions. I'm still in high school. Doesn't matter, Sophia replied. Talent is talent. Age is irrelevant in this industry. Jonathan was quiet for a moment, considering Marcus. The Chicago Young Artists Exhibition is accepting submissions next month. It's a prestigious showcase attended by gallery owners, collectors, art school representatives. I think you should submit work both traditional and digital markets. Immediate instinct was to refuse public exhibition, feeling too exposing, too vulnerable. But before he could speak, Sophia jumped in. Absolutely, the exposure would be incredible, and with Jonathan Myers as your mentor, doors would open instantly. I don't know, Marcus hedged. I've never shown my work publicly before. Jonathan placed a hand on his shoulder. Just consider it. We'll talk more as the deadline approaches. No pressure, but it could be an important opportunity. As the session concluded, Sophia exchanged contact information with Marcus. I'm serious about your digital work. It's exceptional. If you ever want advice about the commercial side of art, or just want to talk to someone who understands both worlds, text me anytime. Riding the bus home, Marcus felt both exhilarated and terrified, his world expanding in ways he couldn't have imagined a month ago. His art validated not just by Jonathan but now by Sophia, a successful working artist, the possibility of the exhibition hovering on the horizon simultaneously. Thrilling and terrifying. His phone buzzed with notifications, sales from his Etsy shop, including a custom commission request for $150 more than he typically made in 2 shifts at the coffee shop. The practical reality of his art's value suddenly concrete. His grandmother's voice echoed in his mind. Opportunities don't knock often in neighborhoods like ours, but now they seem to be pounding on his door, demanding to be let in. The small 2-bedroom apartment Marcus shared with his grandmother had never felt quite so cramped as it did lately. The kitchen table permanently covered with art supplies, his room transformed into a makeshift studio, every available surface holding sketches, works in progress, reference materials. Gloria Jones watched her grandson's transformation with quiet pride, even as her own health continued its gradual decline. You need to eat something, Marcus, she called from the kitchen where she stood at the stove, despite the pain evident in her movements. You've been drawing for hours. Marcus emerged from his room, rubbing his eyes. Sorry, Grandma, got caught up in this piece. Jonathan wants me to finish for tomorrow. He frowned, noticing how she leaned heavily against the counter. You should be sitting. Let me finish dinner. Gloria waved him off. I'm fine, just a little tired, but she couldn't hide the grimace as she shifted weight. Anyway, I like cooking. Gives me something useful to do, Marcus. gently guided her to a chair. "Sit please, I can handle spaghetti." He took over stirring the sauce, checking the pasta, his movements efficient from years of helping in the kitchen. "How are the new medications working? Any better?" Gloria sighed about, "The same doctor says we might need to try something else at my next appointment, costs more of course." Marcus nodded, keeping his expression neutral though. Worry gnawed at him. The prescriptions already stretched their budget thin as coffee shop. Wages and Etsy sales barely covering necessities. "I sold 3 commissions this week. That should help. You're a good boy, Marcus." Gloria's eyes shone with pride. "And something else, something that looked uncomfortably like guilt. Shouldn't be your responsibility though. Taking care of an old woman when you're just 16, don't start that again," Marcus said firmly. "Serving the simple meal. You took care of me my whole life after Mom died. Now it's my turn to help out. That's what family does." That 8 in comfortable silence for a while before Gloria asked, "How are the lessons with Mr. Myers going?" "Still learning useful things." Marcus brightened. "It's amazing, Grandma. He knows so much, shows me techniques I never would have figured out on my own, and he introduced me to another artist, Sophia, who specializes in digital illustration, like some of what I do online." Gloria smiled at his enthusiasm. "In this art show he mentioned. Have you decided if you'll submit work?" Marcus's excitement dimmed slightly, still thinking about it. "It's a big deal. Lots of important people there. Gallery owners, collectors. Jonathan says it could open doors, but you're scared," Gloria finished for him. "Scared of being judged, of putting yourself out there?" Marcus nodded. "What if I'm not good enough? What if Jonathan's just being kind?" Gloria reached across the table, patting his hand. "Jonathan Myers doesn't strike me as a man who wastes time on charity cases. If he says you're good enough, you are." She fixed him with a serious look. "Your mother had the same fear, always hiding her drawings, never believing they were worthy of being seen. Don't make her mistake, Marcus." The mention of his mother was rare. Gloria generally avoided speaking of her daughter, the pain still sharp, even after 12 years. "Tell me about her," Marcus said quietly. "About Mom's art?" "I barely remember." Gloria's eyes grew distant. "She had a gift just like you could capture a likeness in minutes. Used to draw portraits at the park for tourists. Made good money too, until..." She trailed off. "Until what?" Marcus prompted. "Until she got pregnant with you, had to find steady work with health insurance. Art wasn't practical. She always said she'd get back to it someday once things were more stable." Gloria's voice caught. But someday never came. The weight of this revelation settled over Marcus as the parallels to his own situation uncomfortably clear. "I don't want to give up art," he said softly, "but I need to help support us. That's the difference. Marcus, your mother had to choose. I won't let you make that same choice." Gloria's voice strengthened with resolve. "If this exhibition can open doors, if your talent can create opportunities, you need to walk through them. Not step back out of fear or obligation to me." Before Marcus could respond, Gloria winced, suddenly her hand going to her side, face contorting with pain. "Grandma." Alarm shot through him. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Just a twinge," but her pallor and shallow breathing suggested otherwise. Was already reaching for his phone. "I'm calling the doctor." "Don't be silly. It's after hours, and we can't afford an emergency room visit." Gloria attempted to stand, then gasped, clutching the table. "Maybe just help me to bed. I probably overdid it today." Marcus supported her to her bedroom, worry mounting as he felt how heavily she leaned on him, how unsteady her steps had become. Once she was settled, he brought her medication and water, watching anxiously as she took the pills. "If you're not better by morning, I'm taking you to the clinic. No arguments." "Such a worrier," she murmured, already drowsy from the pain medication. "Just like your mother." Later, as Marcus worked on a commission for his Etsy shop, he couldn't shake his concern for his grandmother. Her health had been declining gradually for months, but tonight seemed different. Worse, he'd been so absorbed in his artistic development, his sessions with Jonathan, the excitement of new possibilities that he hadn't fully acknowledged how frail she was. Becco Minga's phone buzzed with a text from Jonathan. "Finished the portrait study. Looking forward to seeing it tomorrow." Marcus glanced at the half-completed traditional portrait on his desk, then at the digital commission on his screen. Two worlds pulling him in different directions. He texted back, "Working on it. Might be a little late tomorrow. Need to take my grandmother to the doctor first." Jonathan's response was immediate. "Family comes first. We can reschedule if needed. Is everything all right?" The simple concern brought an unexpected lump to Marcus's throat. "Hopefully just a checkup. We'll keep you posted." He returned to the digital commission, knowing the $75 payment would help with whatever additional medications his grandmother might need. Working late into the night to complete both pieces, sacrificing sleep for responsibility. Next morning, Gloria insisted she felt better, though Marcus noted how she winced when she moved, how little appetite she had. "For breakfast, I'm taking you to the clinic," he said firmly. Already called into work, told them I'd be late. The community health clinic was crowded as always. They waited 3 hours to see a doctor, Marcus sketching anxiously in his book to pass time, capturing the worry lines of fellow patients, the harried movements of staff. When they were finally called in, the doctor's examination was brief but thorough. "Mrs. Jones, your symptoms concern me," the doctor said, reviewing Gloria's chart. "I'd like to run some tests. Blood work, an ultrasound, possibly a CT scan." Gloria frowned. "What kind of tests? How much will they cost?" We don't have insurance, only Medicaid, Marcus interrupted. Whatever she needs, doctor cost. Doesn't matter though. His stomach clenched, knowing they had no way to pay for expensive procedures. Doctor glanced between them. Let's start with the basics. See what Medicaid will cover, then discuss options. She wrote several orders on a prescription pad. These are urgent, Mrs. Jones. Your symptoms could indicate several serious conditions. We shouldn't delay. In the cab ride home, Gloria was uncharacteristically quiet, finally saying, Marcus, I don't want you spending your art money on medical tests. I know what you're thinking, Grandma. No, listen to me. Her voice was firm despite her weakness. I raised you since you were 4, gave you everything I could, but I won't take your future, your chance at something better promises. Me, you'll submit to that. Exhibition, keep working with Mr. Myers, no matter what happens with these tests. Marcus stared out the window at their neighborhood, the familiar streets somehow looking shabbier, more confining than before. I promise, he said finally, but I'm not. Choosing between your health and my art, we'll figure out both. But later that night, as he researched the costs of the tests, the doctor had ordered as he calculated their meager savings against potential medical bills as he looked at his art supplies. Spread across his desk, the weight of adult responsibility pressed down on his 16-year-old shoulders, his grandmother's labored breathing from the next room. A constant reminder of what truly mattered. Rita's phone lit up with a message from Sophia. Hey, art genius, how's that exhibition submission coming? Need any digital advice? Marcus stared at the text, his mind suddenly clear with purpose. He responded, actually yes, could use advice on something that would sell well, need to make some real money fast. The future he'd glimpsed through Jonathan's mentorship seemed to be receding, even as it had begun to feel possible his mother's unfinished journey. Echoing in his own circumstances yet, as he turned to his sketchbook, beginning anew. Portrait of his grandmother capturing her strength, her dignity, her love, he made a silent vow. This story would have a different ending somehow. He would find a way to honor both his responsibilities and his gift. These are incredible, Marcus. Jonathan's voice held genuine admiration as he examined 5 portraits spread across his work table, each depicting a different subject. Rendered with Marcus's increasingly refined technique, your progress in just these few weeks is remarkable. Marcus nodded, though his mind was elsewhere, distracted by worry over his grandmother, who had reluctantly agreed to stay with a neighbor while he attended his session with Jonathan, the medical tests scheduled for the following week looming in his thoughts. Are you all right? Jonathan asked, noting his student's unusual quietness. You seem distracted today. Marcus hesitated, then decided honesty was necessary. My grandmother's sick, needs some medical tests. Next week, expensive ones. He met Jonathan's eyes directly. I might need to pick up extra shifts at work, maybe miss a session or two. Understanding dawned on Jonathan's face. Of course, family comes first. Is there anything I can do to help? The immediate impulse to refuse charity rose in Marcus, but he suppressed it actually. Yes, he said carefully. Sophia mentioned that my digital work might have commercial value. I need to find ways to make my art pay more than just coffee shop wages or small Etsy commissions. Do you have any suggestions? Jonathan considered this thoughtfully. As it happens, I do several of my collector clients have mentioned looking for fresh talent for various commercial projects, illustrations for publications, digital content for their corporate collections. He studied Marcus. Would you be comfortable with me showing your portfolio to some of these contacts? Hope flickered in Marcus. Yes, absolutely. Anything that could help. Good. I'll make some calls. Jonathan hesitated. Marcus, I hope you don't mind my asking, but your grandmother's medical situation, is it covered by insurance? Marcus shook his head. Just Medicaid covers some things, but not everything. We managed. His tone made it clear he didn't want to discuss details. Jonathan respected the boundary. Understood. Let's focus on what we can control then, your art and its commercial potential. He gestured to the portraits. These are exhibition quality. Any one of them would be competitive. For the young artist showcase, have you given more thought to submitting? I have, Marcus acknowledged. Still working through some concerns, but I'm leaning toward yes. Excellent, Jonathan smiled. Now let's use our time today to focus on creating a cohesive portfolio that showcases both your traditional and digital work, something we can present to potential clients. The session proved productive. Jonathan's connections in the art world providing insights into commercial applications Marcus had never considered, from book covers to editorial illustrations, corporate commissions to character design, each representing income potential beyond what his Etsy shop provided. The key is diversification. Jonathan explained fine art takes time to build financial momentum, but commercial work can provide immediate income while you develop your artistic voice. As they wrapped up, Jonathan handed Marcus an envelope. Before you go, I have something for you. Marcus opened it, finding a check for $500 made out to him. He looked up, confused. What's this for? Your first commission, Jonathan said simply. I'd like you to create a portrait of my niece for her birthday. We can discuss details next session, but I wanted you to have the deposit. Now Marcus stared at the check, suspicion and gratitude warring within him. Is this real? Or are you just trying to help with my grandmother's medical bills? Jonathan met his gaze steadily. It's a legitimate commission, Marcus, at my standard referral rate. I don't offer charity, I invest in talent. There's a difference. After a moment, Marcus nodded, accepting both the check and the distinction. Thank you. I'll make it worth every penny. I know you will. Jonathan walked him to the door, and Marcus, bring your grandmother to our next session. If she's feeling up to it, I'd like to meet the woman who raised such a remarkable young artist. Leaving the studio, Marcus felt slightly lighter, the check in his pocket, representing not just needed funds, but professional validation, a first step toward transforming his art from hobby to career. Yet worry about his grandmother's health continued to shadow his thoughts. Arrived at Sophia's downtown apartment that evening, still processing the day's developments, she greeted him warmly, ushering him into a colorful space that perfectly reflected her vibrant personality. Art covered every wall, from classic illustrations to contemporary digital pieces. Her workspace dominated by dual monitors and a professional-grade drawing tablet. Welcome to the digital dungeon, she joked, gesturing around, where I spend 20 hours a day, hunched like a gremlin, making pretty pictures for corporations. Marcus smiled despite his preoccupations. It's amazing. I've never seen so much art in someone's home. Occupational hazard, Sophia shrugged. Now let's see what you've brought. Marcus opened his laptop, showing her the digital portfolio he'd compiled. Diverse pieces ranging from stylized portraits to more commercial illustrations, character designs, and concept art. Sophia whistled appreciatively. Damn kid, you've got range. Most artists specialize, but you move between styles and approaches effortlessly. She studied several pieces closely. These could sell right now to the right clients. That's what I'm hoping. Marcus admitted, need to start making real money from this. Sophia gave him a knowing look. Jonathan mentioned your grandmother's situation. At Marcus's surprised expression, she added, don't worry, he was discreet. Just said you were looking for commercial opportunities for family reasons. Marcus appreciated the tact. Medical tests, expensive ones. Sophia nodded. Been there. My mom's cancer treatments nearly bankrupted us. When I was in college, art literally paid our bills. She turned to her computer, which is why I'm going to show you exactly how to price your work for maximum value and introduce you to some key contacts in publishing and game design. The next 2 hours were a crash course in the business of commercial art. Sophia sharing insider knowledge about rates, contracts, client relationships, digital rights, and promotion strategies. She helped Marcus restructure his online portfolio to appeal to commercial clients, showing him how to present his work professionally. Talent isn't enough in this industry, she explained. You need business savvy too, especially when you're supporting family. As they worked, Sophia shared stories of her own journey, the challenges of building a career while helping her sick mother, the compromises and triumphs along the way. Marcus found himself opening up in return, telling her about his mother's abandoned artistic dreams, his fears of following the same path. Difference is you have support, Sophia pointed out. Jonathan, me, a whole network of professionals willing to help what your mom didn't have. Before Marcus left, Sophia introduced him via video call to an art director at a major publishing house who, after seeing Marcus's portfolio, immediately offered him a paid trial assignment, illustrating a magazine article. See, Sophia said after the call ended. Told you your work was marketable. Send me the invoice. When you're done, I'll make sure you don't undersell yourself. Riding the bus home, Marcus felt cautiously optimistic. Between Jonathan's commission, the magazine assignment, and Sophia's marketing advice, his art might actually generate enough income to help with his grandmother's medical expenses without requiring him to abandon his creative development. Found Gloria awake when he arrived home, despite the late hour, sitting in her favorite chair with a photo album open on her lap. How was your day with the artists? She asked, looking up with a smile that didn't quite mask her fatigue. Marcus showed her the check from Jonathan, explained the magazine assignment. It's happening, Grandma. My art is starting to pay real money, enough to help with the medical tests. Gloria's eyes filled with tears. Your mother would be so proud. Marcus, seeing you pursue what she couldn't, she patted the album, was just looking at some of her old sketches. Marcus sat beside her, examining the pages filled with his mother's drawings. Talent evident even in these casual sketches: faces, landscapes, studies of light and shadow, a gift passed down to her son. These are beautiful, he said softly. Why didn't you show me before? Too painful, I suppose, Gloria admitted, seeing what might have been, but now she looked at him. Now, I see her gift living on in you, growing, flourishing, that makes the pain worth bearing. Marcus gently closed the album. I won't let it go to waste, I promise. I'll find a way to make this work. The art, the bills, everything. Gloria squeezed his hand. I know you will. You've always been the strongest of us all, even when you were small. Her expression grew serious. But Marcus, promise me something. Don't let caring for me become an excuse for hiding your gift the way your mother did. The world deserves to see what you can create. Marcus nodded, understanding her fear, recognizing the parallel paths her daughters ended too soon. His still unfolding with possibility. I promise, Grandma. I'll find a way forward for both of us. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. Congratulations, your submission has been accepted to the Chicago Young Artists Exhibition. Marcus read the words 3 times to ensure he wasn't misinterpreting, then immediately called Jonathan. I got in, he said when his mentor answered. The exhibition, they accepted all 5 pieces? Of course they did. Jonathan replied, satisfaction evident in his voice. I told you, it was a matter of when, not if. Have you told your grandmother? Not yet. She's at dialysis. Marcus's excitement dimmed slightly at the mention of Gloria's treatment. Going to tell her when I pick her up? This is a significant achievement, Marcus Jonathan emphasized. Worth celebrating regardless of other circumstances. The exhibition opens doors, opportunities, connections that could shape your entire future. Marcus knew Jonathan was right. The acceptance, a validation beyond anything he'd expected, yet it felt almost secondary to the corporate commission he'd been working on night and day for the past week. The intense deadline-driven project consuming every spare moment between school work and caring for Gloria. The bank project is going well, to Marcus offered. Completed the first phase, got approval, moving to final illustrations. Excellent. I knew you could handle it. Jonathan paused. Marcus, I hope you're taking care of yourself as well. Balancing all these commitments is challenging even for seasoned professionals. Marcus glanced at his reflection in the computer screen. The dark circles under his eyes, testament to too many late nights, too much responsibility for 16. I'm managing, everything's on track. Good. Now about the exhibition, we need to discuss framing presentation. The opening night reception, Jonathan continued, outlining next steps. After the call, Marcus sat staring at the acceptance email, a complex mix of emotions coursing through him: pride, accomplishment, anxiety. The pending exhibition, suddenly real, concrete, a public declaration of his artistic identity. The privacy of his sketchbook expanded to gallery walls exposed to critical eyes, strangers judging his work, his vision, his worth. His phone buzzed. Sophia texting, congratulations. Told you they'd be idiots not to accept you. Celebratory pizza, my treat tonight. Can't, he replied. Grandmother's treatment, then bank project deadline, all work no play. Came her response, followed by seriously though, proud of you kid, this is huge. Marcus smiled, appreciating her enthusiasm while feeling somewhat removed from it, his mind already calculating how to fit exhibition preparation into his overcrowded schedule at the dialysis center. Gloria's face lit up at his news. The exhibition. Marcus, that's wonderful. Despite her obvious fatigue, she squeezed his hand, excitement momentarily overriding the exhaustion of her treatment. When is it? What do you need? We should get you a new shirt, something proper for an artist at his first gallery showing. Grandma, it's weeks away. Plenty of time to figure out details. Marcus helped her into a wheelchair, hospital policy for departing patients, though she grumbled about the indignity. How are you feeling today? Tired but better, she said, though Marcus noted how the treatments seemed to drain more from her each time, leaving her weaker. Recovery taking longer, doctor says. My numbers are improving slightly. Marcus nodded encouragingly, though the improvements were marginal at best. The expensive treatments keeping Gloria stable rather than truly healing the underlying condition. The prognosis guarded her kidneys functioning at dangerously low levels. At home, he settled Gloria for a nap, then returned to the corporate project illustrations for the bank's annual report, highlighting their community investment initiatives. Jonathan had coached him through client interactions, professional presentation, technical specifications, guiding without overriding Marcus's creative vision, ensuring the work met professional standards while maintaining his unique style. Of projects demanding timeline meant working late into the night. Every night, Marcus's desk lamp, the only light in the apartment, as he hunched over his tablet, creating, revising, refining. The pressure of the substantial fee motivating him through exhaustion, knowing what it would mean for Gloria's medical expenses. Phone buzzed. Ms. Patel, his art teacher, texting congratulations about the exhibition news, apparently spreading through school circles. This could strengthen scholarship applications, she wrote. Please come see me to discuss options. Marcus set the phone aside, focusing on the illustration before him. Art school, scholarships, exhibition preparation, all secondary to the immediate needs. Gloria's health, the looming medical bills, the corporate deadline, his responsibility as the only functional adult in their small family, though legally still a child. Wednesday afternoon brought a meeting with the bank executives. Jonathan, accompanying Marcus to the financial district, a sleek tower of glass and steel so removed from his neighborhood it might as well have been another planet. Remember, Jonathan advised as they rode the elevator to the 42nd floor. You're not a high school student here, you're a professional artist fulfilling a commission. Speak with confidence, present your work with authority. Marcus nodded, adjusting the borrowed tie. Jonathan had insisted on professional appearance being part of the package. The elevator doors opened to reveal a reception area with stunning views of the city, the lake gleaming in the distance. Its presentation went better than Marcus had dared hope. The executives impressed with his concepts, his execution, his articulation of their brand values. Jonathan's presence lending credibility, his occasional supportive comments reinforcing Marcus's professional standing. These illustrations capture exactly what we're trying to convey, the marketing director commented, examining the digital mock-ups. Fresh, contemporary, appealing to younger demographics while maintaining the gravitas, our older clients expect. The creative director nodded. Remarkable work, especially given the compressed timeline. Can you deliver the final assets by next Friday? Marcus calculated mentally the hours required alongside his other commitments. Yes, absolutely. All files will be ready and optimized for digital platforms as specified. As they left the meeting, Jonathan clapped Marcus on the shoulder. Perfectly handled there. Impressed not just with the work, but with your professionalism, your confidence? Mostly an act, Marcus admitted. Inside, I was terrified. Jonathan laughed. That's the secret, Marcus. We're all terrified, just some of us have more practice hiding it. He checked his watch. Can you come to the studio this afternoon? We should discuss exhibition preparations. Marcus hesitated. Need to check on Grandma first. Make sure she's okay. Of course, Jonathan nodded. Understanding. Text me when you know it. Home. Marcus found Gloria napping, a common occurrence, now her body demanding rest to compensate for its failing systems. He moved quietly, preparing a light meal for when she awoke, checking her medication, organizing pills, and the weekly phone buzzed. Sophia, how'd the bank meeting go? Better than expected, he replied. They loved the concepts. Told you they would. Talent always shines through. Marcus smiled at her confidence in him, something warming in his chest at the realization of how many people now believed in his abilities. Jonathan, Sophia, Ms. Patel, even Rick at the coffee shop, who had rearranged his schedule to accommodate Marcus's increasingly complex life. When Gloria woke, she insisted she felt well enough for Marcus to attend his session with Jonathan. Don't use me as an excuse, she chided. I'm perfectly capable of sitting in this chair watching my shows for a few hours. At Jonathan's studio, the focus shifted to exhibition preparation, selecting frames, finalizing artist statements, discussing presentation techniques, Jonathan guiding Marcus through the professional aspects of showing work in a gallery setting. The opening night reception will be well attended, Jonathan explained. Collectors, critics, gallery owners, art school representatives, people who can open doors for your future. Marcus nodded, trying to focus, though fatigue pulled at him. The cumulative effect of too many late nights, too much responsibility, the constant worry about Gloria. I should work on the bank illustrations tonight. Try to get ahead of deadline. Jonathan studied him with concern. When did you last sleep a full night? Marcus shrugged. Been busy. Marcus. Jonathan's voice was gentle but firm. You're managing an extraordinary amount of responsibility, but you need to maintain your health. Your well-being. Burnout is a real risk. Don't have the luxury of burnout, Marcus replied. Grandma needs her treatments, bank needs their illustrations, exhibition needs preparation bills. Need paying. Jonathan nodded, understanding. At least let me help with the exhibition preparations. Take that off your plate. I can handle the framing, the logistics, let you focus on the bank project and your grandmother. Marcus wanted to refuse, preserve his independence, but practicality won out. Thank you, that would help. As he prepared to leave, Jonathan handed him an envelope. The first payment from the bank, 60% upfront, as negotiated, should help with immediate medical expenses. Marcus opened it, finding a check for $9,000, more money than he'd ever seen at once. This changes everything, he said softly. Covers Gloria's treatments for months. You earned it, Jonathan reminded him. Through talent, hard work, professionalism, writing. The bus home, check safely tucked in his pocket. Marcus felt a weight lift temporarily. The immediate financial pressure eased, opportunity and obligation balanced for a moment. Gloria's care secured his artistic future, advancing, allowed himself to imagine possibilities, the exhibition leading to connections. Sales, perhaps scholarship, offers a path forward. The Chicago Young Artists Exhibition. Opening night transformed the Meridian Gallery into a buzzing hive of activity, well-dressed patrons moving between displays, champagne glasses in hand, serious collectors consulting glossy catalogs, art critics making notes on tablets. Marcus stood beside his display, 5 pieces, arranged according to Jonathan's expert guidance, framed professionally, lit perfectly, his name and artist statement mounted on the wall beside them. Breathe, Jonathan advised, adjusting Marcus's tie, the same one he'd loaned him for the bank meeting, now paired with a new blazer Gloria had insisted on buying despite Marcus's protests. You look like you're facing a firing squad, not celebrating an achievement. Marcus tried to smile, though his stomach churned with anxiety, the public scrutiny overwhelming. After years of creating art in private, there are so many people, all here to discover new talent, Jonathan reminded him, including yours, especially yours, if the attention your work is already receiving is any indication. Indeed, Marcus's display had drawn consistent visitors since the preview hour began, his portraits in particular, attracting lingering viewers. Appreciative comments noted in the guest book the gallery had provided. Marcus himself had been approached by several patrons asking about his techniques, his inspiration, his background. Questions he answered with increasing confidence, coached by Jonathan to own his story. Marcus, Sophia's voice cut through the crowd as she approached, resplendent in a vintage dress, her purple hair freshly dyed for the occasion. Your work looks amazing in this space. Museum quality lighting makes all the difference. She hugged him warmly, then greeted Jonathan. Quite the turnout, the director told me. They haven't had this many people at an opening in years. Marcus scanned the crowd anxiously. Have you seen my grandmother? The medical transport was supposed to bring her 15 minutes ago, just arrived. Sophia pointed toward the entrance where Gloria was being wheeled in by an attendant looking frail but determined, dressed in her best outfit, hairstyled, makeup applied for the special occasion. Marcus hurried to meet her, kneeling beside the wheelchair. "You made it, wouldn't miss it for the world." Gloria squeezed his hand. "Now show me these masterpieces of yours properly displayed at last." He wheeled her through the gallery, pointing out other artists' works before arriving at his own display. Where Jonathan and Sophia waited, Gloria's eyes filled with tears as she took in the sight her grandson's art professionally presented in a prestigious gallery. "His name on the wall, your mother would be so proud," she whispered. "As am I." The gallery director approached a tall woman with an elegant silver bob. "Marcus Jones, our youngest exhibitor, and one of our most promising, if sales are any indication." Marcus looked up, surprised. "Sales? 2 of your pieces have already sold," she informed him with a pleased smile. "The portrait of the elderly man and the digital urban landscape red dots have been placed beside them." Gloria beamed with pride as the director continued. "Several collectors have expressed interest in commissioning work, and the review committee for the National Young Artists Scholarship has specifically requested information about your academic plans." Marcus felt momentarily overwhelmed. The reality of his talent's commercial value, the tangible results of Jonathan's mentorship, the possibilities suddenly expanding before him. "Thank you for the opportunity." He managed. "Talent creates its own opportunities. Mr. Jones, you've clearly got plenty." The director moved on to greet other guests. Jonathan squeezed Marcus's shoulder. "This is just the beginning. Remember these connections. These moments, they build foundations for your future." As the evening progressed, Marcus found himself engaged in conversations with gallery owners, collectors, art school representatives, his initial nervousness giving way to genuine dialogue about his work, his vision, his techniques. Gloria watching proudly from her wheelchair, occasionally contributing to conversations. Sophia hovering nearby, offering support. When Marcus seemed overwhelmed, a distinguished man in his 60s approached, studying Marcus's remaining portraits with particular interest. "Remarkable emotional depth," he commented, "particularly from someone so young. May I ask where you studied?" Marcus replied, the answer becoming easier with repetition. "Though I've been mentored by Jonathan Myers for the past few months." The man nodded. "Jonathan has an eye for exceptional talent. Always has." He extended his hand. "Robert Cavendish, Chicago Art Institute. I'd be very interested in discussing your educational future if you're considering formal training." Marcus accepted the handshake, stunned by the introduction. "The Chicago Art Institute, among the most prestigious art schools in the country? I'm definitely interested, though. Financial constraints are a consideration? For talent of your caliber, there are options." Cavendish handed Marcus a business card. "Scholarships, assistantships. We should talk." Gloria watched this exchange, her expression a mixture of pride and something else sunken. Marcus couldn't quite identify when the crowd thinned briefly. He knelt beside her. "Are you tired? Should we get you home?" She shook her head. "Not yet. I want to see this through your night, your triumph." She patted his hand. "I'm just taking it all in. Marcus, seeing the future unfolding for you, doors opening, possibilities I always knew existed but couldn't access for you." Before Marcus could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew their attention. Rick from the Grindstone Coffee Shop had arrived with several staff members and regular customers in tow. Looking out of place but determined among the art crowd, Marcus, Rick called, spotting him, "came to support our local celebrity barista." He gestured to the group behind him. Whole crew wanted to see what the fuss was about. Marcus introduced them to Jonathan and Sophia. Rick, immediately recognizing Jonathan, the famous artist who fished Marcus's drawing from my trash, he acknowledged sheepishly. "Best mistake I ever made leading to this. Sometimes our worst moments enable others' best opportunities," Jonathan replied diplomatically. As the Grindstone contingent moved to examine Marcus's work, Rick held back. "Listen, I feel terrible about how I treated your art before. Want to make it right? How about a permanent display at the shop? Your work on the walls, commission sales, the works." Marcus smiled at the irony from Trash Can 2 featured artist. "Quite the promotion talent rises," Rick shrugged. "Even when idiotic managers try to throw it away." The evening continued in a blur of introductions, conversations, potential opportunities. Marcus, moving between art world professionals and neighborhood supporters, straddling the two worlds that now comprised his expanding life. Jonathan, guiding him through introductions, ensuring his work received proper attention. Sophia documenting everything with photos for your future biography, she joked. Closing time approached. The gallery director congratulated Marcus again. 3 pieces sold, several commission requests, and significant interest from institutions. Impressive debut by any standard. Jonathan helped arrange transportation for Gloria, who had finally admitted exhaustion, Marcus accompanying her to the medical transport van. "Will you be okay if I stay a bit longer? Sophia wants to take me and Jonathan for a celebration dinner." Gloria cupped his cheek. "Go, enjoy your success. You've earned this night, every moment of it." Her eyes shone with unshed tears. "I am so proud of you, Marcus, so proud of the artist you're becoming. The man you're growing into. Couldn't have done any of it without you." he replied, throat tight with emotion. We make a good team, she agreed as the attendant helped her into the van, but tonight isn't about me. It's about you, about your future. Embrace it fully. Watching the van pull away, Marcus felt the familiar tension between responsibility and opportunity, obligation and aspiration, the balance he'd been struggling to maintain since Jonathan had first entered his life, the scale tipping gradually toward possibility without abandoning duty. She's remarkable, Jonathan said, joining him on the sidewalk. Her strength, her vision for your future. Marcus nodded. Everything I am, everything I might become started with her believing in me. And now the world is starting to believe too. Jonathan gestured toward the gallery where Marcus's remaining artworks hung, illuminated, perfect testimony to talent, recognized, nurtured, celebrated. Your journey is just beginning, Marcus. Tonight is merely the first step. Sophia joined them, linking her arms through theirs. Enough profound artistic contemplation for one night. You sold 3 pieces, made connections with the Art Institute, and have commissions pending. Time to celebrate with pizza and ridiculous stories about Jonathan's early career disasters. As they walked toward Sophia's car, Marcus glanced back at the gallery, his name visible in the window display, a surreal sight. The coffee shop barista, the South Side kid with a dying grandmother, and a second-hand tablet. Now Marcus Jones, featured artist with sold stickers beside his work. The journey from trash can to gallery wall, complete, yet somehow just beginning. Marcus awoke to the sound of Gloria's coughing, a harsh, racking sound that had become increasingly common over the past week. He rushed to her room, finding her hunched over, tissues spotted with blood, her breathing labored face ashen. Calling an ambulance, he said immediately, reaching for his phone. Time, Gloria didn't protest, a sign of how poorly she felt. The ambulance arrived quickly, paramedics efficient, professional, as they stabilized her, prepared her for transport, Marcus riding alongside, holding her hand as the siren wailed through early morning streets, his possession success from 2 weeks prior feeling distant, unimportant compared to the fragility of Gloria's life. Fine. The emergency room doctors moved with practiced urgency. Blood-drawn tests, ordered Gloria, whisked away for imaging, leaving Marcus alone in the waiting room, his sketchbook clutched forgotten in his hands. Eventually he remembered to call Jonathan, canceling their scheduled session. Don't worry about anything but your grandmother, Jonathan assured him. Keep me updated, I can be there if you need support. Hours passed before the doctor finally appeared, her expression serious as she led Marcus to a consultation room. Your grandmother's condition has deteriorated significantly, she explained gently. Her kidneys are failing completely now, affecting other systems, her heart, lungs. Her overall health is compromised. Marcus nodded numbly, having anticipated this moment, dreaded it. What happens now? We've admitted her to intensive care, stabilized her immediate symptoms, but the doctor hesitated. Without a kidney transplant, her prognosis is very poor. Weeks, possibly a month or 2 at most. A transplant. Can she get one? Hope flickered briefly. The doctor's expression remained grave. Given her age, overall health status, she's not an ideal candidate for transplant. The waiting list is extensive, even for optimal candidates. There must be something, Marcus insisted, desperation edging his voice. The treatments, the dialysis, they were helping manage symptoms, slowing progression, but not reversing the underlying condition. The doctor explained, I'm very sorry, but your grandmother's situation is critical. We'll make her comfortable, manage her pain, but you should prepare yourself for difficult decisions ahead. Marcus sat with Gloria later that afternoon, her small form dwarfed by the hospital bed monitors beeping softly, tubes and wires connecting her to machines that prolonged her life, measured her decline. Stop looking so tragic, she whispered, opening her eyes, finding him beside her. Not dead yet. Marcus attempted a smile. Scared me this morning, scared myself, she admitted, reaching for his hand, her fingers cool, papery against his skin. Marcus, we need to talk about what happens next. You focus on getting stronger, he replied, the standard response, though they both knew it was hollow. Gloria shook her head slightly. No more pretending, we both know where this is headed. Her voice, though weak, was determined. I've had conversations with the doctors, understand my situation. Clearly Marcus wanted to object, deny the reality, but respected her too much for comforting lies. I'm not ready to lose you. No, baby. I know, her eyes filled with tears. Not ready to leave you either, but some things we don't get to choose. She squeezed his hand with what little strength remained. What we can choose is how we handle the time we have left and what comes after. Over the next few days, Marcus practically lived at the hospital, maintaining a vigil by Gloria's bedside, sketching as she slept, bringing her favorite books, photos, mementos from home. The doctors had stabilized her immediate crisis, but made clear the underlying condition continued to worsen. Jonathan visited, bringing food, forcing Marcus to eat proper meals. You can't help Gloria if you collapse yourself, he insisted. Basic self-care isn't selfish, it's necessary. Sophia came to, bringing cheerful flowers, a tablet loaded with Gloria's favorite shows, small comforts for the sterile hospital room. She sat with Marcus during doctor's consultations, taking notes, asking questions, her practical nature providing structure amid emotional chaos. During one of Gloria's more lucid periods, she beckoned Marcus closer, talked to the social worker today about arrangements. Marcus shook his head. Grandma, please don't have to. She insisted. You're 16, still a minor. Legally need plans in place. Her breathing was labored even this short conversation. Taxing her strength, Jonathan has agreed to apply for temporary guardianship until you're 18. Marcus looked up, surprised. Jonathan, when did you discuss this? Yesterday? Well, you were getting coffee, Gloria explained. He suggested it actually wants to ensure you can stay in school. Focus on your art, not get lost in the system. The realization that Gloria and Jonathan had been planning for his future without him created a complex tangle of emotions: gratitude, resentment, appreciation, fear. I can take care of myself, he said. Finally been doing it for years. Basically, Gloria's expression softened. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to. Not alone. Not anymore. She squeezed his hand. Jonathan cares about you, not just your talent, Marcus, about you as a person. He understands what you're facing better than most, having lost his parents. Young Marcus absorbed this information, the pieces of Jonathan's past he'd shared the parallels to his own situation, suddenly taking on new significance. What about our apartment? My school? All being arranged, Gloria assured him. Jonathan has a guest suite in his home. You'd have your own space, privacy, independence, but also support, guidance, stability. She searched his face. I need to know you'll be okay, Marcus, that my leaving won't derail your future. That's the only piece I can take with me. Tears burned behind Marcus's eyes. The reality of Gloria's impending death, the practical arrangements being made, the future without her stretching before him, impossible to imagine yet inexorably approaching. I don't want any of this, he whispered. Just want you to get better. Come home. I know, baby. Gloria's own eyes filled with tears. But sometimes life doesn't give us what we want, only what we need to grow, what we need to become who we're meant to be. That evening, after Gloria had fallen asleep, Marcus stood by the window of her hospital room, staring out at the city lights, Jonathan having stepped out to take a call. She's making plans, Marcus said when Jonathan returned for me. Jonathan nodded. She asked if I would be willing to become your guardian temporarily until you turn 18. Ensure you can continue your education, your artistic development, without interruption. And you agreed? Not a question, but a statement. I did, Jonathan confirmed. If you're comfortable with the arrangement, if not, we can explore other options, but Gloria was quite insistent that you not end up in foster care, even temporarily. Marcus turned from the window, studying Jonathan. This man who had entered his life so unexpectedly, who had transformed his understanding of art, of possibility, of his own potential. Why would you take on that responsibility? I'm not your problem, Jonathan considered the question, because I see in you not just extraordinary talent, but extraordinary character, because I understand what it means to lose your foundation, as you're still building your life, because I believe your voice as an artist deserves cultivation without interruption. He met Marcus's gaze directly, and because I've come to care about you, Marcus, about your well-being, your future beyond just your artistic development. The simple honesty of the answer, the lack of platitudes or false sentiment, resonated with Marcus, who had developed a finely tuned sensor for insincerity. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, any of it losing her. Living somewhere new, continuing when everything's changed. One day at a time, Jonathan replied. Sometimes 1 hour, 1 minute, that's all any of us can do. When facing loss, but you won't face it alone, Marcus, that I can promise. Marcus nodded, turning back to Gloria's sleeping form, so small now, so fragile, yet still the center of his world, the foundation from which everything else had grown. She wants me to keep going with my art, apply to the institute, accept the opportunities even after. Because she knows your talent is exceptional, Jonathan said quietly. Because she believes in your future even when she won't be here to witness it. That's the greatest expression of love, seeing beyond our own existence to possibilities we'll never experience ourselves. The small apartment filled with unfamiliar aromas, as Gloria insisted on preparing Jonathan's Sunday dinner herself despite Marcus's protests. I'm not an invalid yet, she declared, standing at the stove with determination, though Marcus noticed how she steadied herself against the counter, how she needed to rest between tasks. At least let me handle the heavy lifting, he negotiated, setting the table. Their good dishes, excavated from the cabinet where they lived unused most of the year, had been adamant about making this dinner special. We may not have much, she'd said, but we have dignity and hospitality. She'd sent Marcus to buy fresh flowers for the table, had polished the silver serving spoons inherited from her mother, had dressed in her best outfit, complete with the pearl earrings she saved for special occasions. Doorbell rang precisely at 6, Jonathan arriving with a bottle of sparkling cider, non-alcoholic, he explained, but festive. He handed Marcus a portfolio case and work materials for after dinner. Gloria greeted him warmly, accepting the flowers he'd brought along with the cider. So you're the man who discovered my grandson's talent? Jonathan smiled. I merely recognized what was already there, Mrs. Jones. The talent is entirely Marcus's. Gloria, please, she corrected, ushering him to the living room, and modest too. I like that. Marcus watched with fascination as his grandmother and mentor conversed easily, Gloria asking insightful questions about Jonathan's career, the art world, opportunities for young artists. Jonathan responding with respect and honesty, treating her not as Marcus's ailing grandmother, but as an intelligent woman with valid concerns about her grandson's future. Dinner. Gloria shared stories of Marcus as a child, always drawing, always observing. Even before he could talk properly, he'd study faces, memorize details. Grandma. Marcus protested, embarrassed. It's true, she insisted. His mother was the same way. Cassandra could draw anything she saw perfectly from memory. Even as a little girl, Jonathan looked interested. Artistic talent often runs in families. Was Marcus's father also artistic? An uncomfortable silence fell, Gloria exchanging a glance with Marcus before answering carefully, we wouldn't know he wasn't in the picture. Jonathan smoothly redirected the conversation. Marcus mentioned you were reviewing art school options, Gloria. I'm impressed by your foresight. Gloria nodded, grateful for the subject change. Yes, though the financial aspects are daunting, even with scholarships there are more options than most people realize. Jonathan replied, grants, fellowships, work-study programs. Especially for students with Marcus's level of talent, I'd be happy to provide guidance when the time comes. The conversation flowed easily through dinner, Jonathan complimenting Gloria's cooking, the pot roast indeed excellent despite her limited strength. Gloria asking about Jonathan's current projects, his teaching philosophy, his assessment of Marcus's potential after the meal as Gloria prepared coffee. Marcus noticed her wince, suddenly grabbing the counter for support. He was at her side instantly. Grandma, just tired, she insisted, but her pallor and shaking hands suggested otherwise. Perhaps I should sit down for a bit. You two can discuss art matters. Marcus helped her to her favorite chair, concerned by how heavily she leaned on him, how labored her breathing had become. Jonathan watched with quiet concern as Marcus ensured Gloria was comfortable bringing her medication and water. I'm fine, she insisted, seeing Jonathan's expression just overdid it a bit. The doctor warned me about that. My mother was the same way, Jonathan said, kindly refused to acknowledge any limitation, fought to maintain normalcy even during her illness. Gloria studied him with new understanding. Cancer. Jonathan nodded. Lymphoma. She was determined not to let it define her. Continued teaching right until the end. A woman after my own heart. Gloria smiled weakly. Marcus worries too much. Because I care, Marcus replied, adjusting a pillow behind her back. Why don't you show me those portfolio pieces, Marcus? Jonathan suggested, giving Gloria space to rest. We can work at the kitchen table for the next hour. Marcus and Jonathan reviewed potential exhibition pieces, discussing presentation, framing, artist statements, Jonathan offering professional guidance, Marcus absorbing every detail, occasionally checking on Gloria, who had dozed off in her chair. She's remarkable, Jonathan observed quietly, her strength, her dignity, despite obvious pain. Marcus nodded. Always has been. Took me in when my mom died, raised me alone. Worked 2 jobs most of my childhood, never complained. He looked at his sleeping grandmother, love and worry evident in his expression. She deserves better than this. Struggling to pay medical bills, worrying about the future. You're doing everything possible, Marcus, Jonathan assured him, more than most adults would manage, let alone a 16-year-old. Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with praise. Doing what needs doing, like she taught me. They continued working until Gloria stirred Marcus immediately. Going to her side, think I'll head to bed, she said, attempting to rise but faltering. Jonathan moved quickly to help steady her. Thank you for a lovely dinner, Gloria, he said, and for raising such an exceptional young man. Gloria patted his hand. Thank you for seeing his potential when others didn't, for giving him chances. I couldn't. Her eyes met Jonathan's, conveying something beyond words. A passing of responsibility, an acknowledgement of shared concern for Marcus's future. After helping Gloria to her bedroom, Marcus returned, finding Jonathan gathering his materials. Sorry about cutting the evening short. No apologies necessary, Jonathan assured him. Family comes first, always. He hesitated, then added, Marcus, your grandmother's condition seems to be taking a significant toll. Have you considered whether she needs more assistance? Perhaps home health care? Marcus sighed, considered yes, afforded no. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident even with insurance and assistance programs. Even with the commercial work coming in, medical expenses keep mounting. Jonathan nodded, understanding. If you're comfortable sharing, what's the financial gap you're facing currently? Marcus hesitated, privacy and pride warring. With practical need, about $8,000 for the current treatment plan, plus ongoing medication costs. Jonathan absorbed this information, significant but not insurmountable, especially with your talent. He thought for a moment. There's a corporate commission. I've been offered illustration work for an annual report. Normally I'd decline commercial projects, but in this case, the fee is substantial, $15,000, and the deadline tight, 3 weeks. Marcus's eyes widened. $15,000. Yes, it's a major financial institution, willing to pay premium for quality work on a compressed timeline. Jonathan met Marcus's gaze. I'd like to recommend you for the project with my supervision, of course. It would be intense, demanding work on top of your existing commitments, but could resolve your immediate financial concerns. Hope and doubt battled in Marcus's expression. Why would they hire an unknown teenager when they could have Jonathan Myers? because I'll vouch for your ability to deliver exceptional work, because your digital style is actually better suited to their needs than my traditional approach, because talent transcends age and experience when it's genuine. Jonathan smiled, and because I'll be guiding you through the process, ensuring the client receives work that exceeds their expectations. Marcus considered the opportunity, the challenge, the potential solution to their financial crisis. If you really think I can handle it, yes, absolutely, I know you can. Jonathan gathered his portfolio. I'll make the arrangements tomorrow. The work will be demanding, Marcus, but so is everything worthwhile. He moved toward the door, then paused. Your grandmother is extraordinary. Her love for you, her belief in your potential, that's a rare gift. Treasure it while you can. After Jonathan left, Marcus checked on Gloria, finding her awake, sitting up in bed. You should be sleeping, he chided gently. Wanted to hear how it went. She replied, Jonathan's a good man, isn't he? Genuine? Marcus nodded. He is, and he just offered me a huge opportunity, a commercial project that could cover your medical expenses. Gloria's eyes widened, all of them. Most anyway, enough to get us through this rough patch. Marcus sat beside her on the bed. Things are going to get better. Grandma, I promise. The treatment will work, the money will come. We'll figure this out. Gloria took his hand. I know we will. Her expression turned serious. Marcus, I need you to promise me something. If things don't go as we hope with my health, if decisions need to be made, put your future first, not me. Grandma, don't talk like that. Promise me. She insisted. Your gift is too important to sacrifice. I've lived my life, Marcus. You're just beginning. Yours. Marcus swallowed hard. I promise to try, but you have to promise something to fight. Stay with me. I can't do this without you. Gloria smiled, squeezing his hand. Seems we have a deal? Then I'll keep fighting. If you keep drawing, fair enough. Fair enough, Marcus agreed, though worry continued to gnaw at him long after Gloria had fallen asleep. The weight of responsibility, the uncertainty of the future, balanced against opportunity and hope, the scales tipping first one way, then another in his mind as he sketched late into the night, preparing for the challenges ahead. 1 year later, Marcus stood in the center of the small gallery space, surrounded by his work, 20 pieces arranged chronologically, showing his artistic evolution. The earliest dating from before Jonathan's mentorship, raw, powerful, unrefined. The latest, demonstrating his growing technical mastery. The blending of intuitive talent with formal training. The exhibition, titled Becoming, represented his journey not just as an artist, but as a person. Nervous? Jonathan asked, adjusting the lighting. On a particularly striking portrait, terrified Marcus admitted. What if no one comes? Jonathan smiled. The opening isn't for 3 hours, and there's already a line forming outside. I'd say that concern is unwarranted. The past year had transformed Marcus's life in ways both painful and profound. Gloria had died peacefully 6 weeks after her hospitalization. Marcus at her bedside, holding her hand, sketching her one final time, capturing her essence, her dignity, her love, even as it slipped away. The portrait now hung in a place of honor in his studio, too personal, too sacred for public exhibition. After her death, Marcus had moved into Jonathan's home, the guest suite, becoming his own space, private, independent, yet connected to support, guidance, stability. The transition difficult at times, grief making him withdraw into himself, anger at the unfairness of loss, occasionally directed at Jonathan, who weathered these emotional storms with steady patience, understanding the necessary process of mourning. Shul had provided structure. Ms. Patel championing his application to the Chicago Art Institute's early college program, allowing him to complete high school requirements while beginning specialized training. His portfolio bolstered by the Young Artists exhibition, earning him a substantial scholarship. Financial concerns eased by the continued sales of his work, both traditional and digital. The Grindstone Coffee Shop had indeed created a permanent display of Marcus's art, where it all began, as Rick liked to tell customers, the story of Jonathan Myers. Fishing Marcus's drawing from the trash, now local legend, the shop becoming an unexpected satellite gallery, selling several pieces to customers who came for coffee and left with art. Sophia had become both friend and colleague, their age difference irrelevant in the face of shared artistic passion, shared understanding of loss, she having navigated her own mother's illness years earlier. She helped Marcus establish professional boundaries, pricing structures, contracts, ensuring his talent wasn't exploited. His grief didn't make him vulnerable. There's Robert from the Institute. Jonathan nodded toward the door where the distinguished professor was entering, clipboard in hand, ready for the final inspection before opening. In Victoria from Meridian Gallery. Marcus straightened his shoulders, no longer the uncertain coffee shop boy, but a young artist coming into his own, standing beside his work with growing confidence. Good afternoon, Professor Cavendish. Ms. Langley, thank you for coming. The next 3 hours passed in a blur of final preparations, adjustments to lighting, placement, labels. Marcus working alongside Jonathan, now less mentor and student, more colleagues. Collaborators, though the guidance continued, subtle, respectful, allowing Marcus's vision to lead while offering experience-based suggestions. Ready? Jonathan asked as opening time approached, the murmur of waiting visitors audible through the door. To took a deep breath, surveying the exhibition. This milestone, this testament to survival, to growth, to possibility. Ready? The doors opened, visitors flowing in immediately. Some familiar faces from the art world, collectors who had purchased his earlier works, fellow students from the Institute, others strangers drawn by reviews, advanced publicity. The growing reputation of Marcus Jones as a rising star in Chicago's art scene arrived, with the entire Grindstone staff proudly pointing out their artist to anyone who would listen. Miss Patel brought several teachers from Marcus's school, beaming with proprietary pride. Sophia circulated, taking photos, documenting the event for the catalog, the website, the growing archive of Marcus's professional journey. This piece is extraordinary, a collector commented, examining a large portrait that dominated one wall. The emotional depth, the technical execution, remarkable for someone so young. Thank you, Marcus replied, finding the words easier now. Practice building confidence. It's about transformation, seeing beyond surface to essential nature. As he moved through the gallery, discussing his work, answering questions, accepting congratulations, Marcus felt Gloria's absence acutely, knowing how proud she would have been, how she would have moved among these art world professionals with her natural dignity, her unwavering belief in his talent. Jonathan seemed to sense this, joining him during a quiet moment. She's here, you know, in every piece you create, in the artist you're becoming. Marcus nodded. I know, just wish she could see it, actually see it. She saw it before any of us, Jonathan reminded him. Saw your potential when you were just a boy with a pencil and determination. That's why she fought so hard to ensure your path remained open. The exhibition continued, visitors flowing through the space sails, marked by discrete red dots appearing beside pieces, Marcus maintaining professional composure. Even as the reality registered, this wasn't just artistic validation, but financial security, independence. His talent now supporting him just as Gloria had believed it. Cuttering a lull, Marcus slipped away to a quiet corner, pulling out his sketchbook, a habit that had sustained him through grief, through transition, through rebuilding his life. The simple act of drawing connecting him to his core, to what remained unchanged despite all that had been lost, still carrying that same sketchbook. A familiar voice looked up to find Rick standing nearby. Different one, but yeah, always. Rick smiled. Remember that day when I threw your drawing in the trash? Sometimes I think about how differently things might have gone if Jonathan hadn't walked in right then. I think about that too, Marcus admitted. How much of life hinges on timing, on chance encounters, on being seen at exactly the right moment, or on having talent so undeniable it demands recognition, Jonathan added, joining them even from trash cans. As the evening concluded, the exhibition unquestionably successful, Marcus found himself standing before Gloria's portrait, the one that hung not in the gallery but in his studio at Jonathan's home. A private image he'd brought solely for himself, a reminder, a connection, a conversation across the boundary of life and death. Did I do okay, Grandma? He whispered. Am I making you proud? Jonathan appeared at his side. Time to go. The critics are gathering at Sophia's for the post-opening analysis. She's ordered enough pizza to feed a small army, Marcus nodded, putting away his sketchbook. Let's go outside the gallery. A young boy, perhaps 12 years old, waited, clutching a sketchbook of his own, nervously approaching as Marcus and Jonathan exited. Excuse me, Mr. Jones. Could I show you my drawings? I want to be an artist too. Marcus exchanged glances with Jonathan, seeing in the mentor's small smile understanding of the circle completing itself, the pattern continuing. Of course, Marcus said, taking the offered sketchbook. Let's see what you've got. As he examined the boy's drawings, raw, unpolished, yet showing unmistakable promise, Marcus felt something shift within him, the weight of loss still present, but balanced now by purpose, by connection, by the recognition that his journey, while uniquely his own, was part of something larger, an ongoing conversation between those who create, those who teach, those who recognize, those who become these show real potential. He told the boy, whose face lit up with a simple validation, keep drawing every day, no matter what anyone tells you. Jonathan watched this exchange, his expression revealing pride, not just in Marcus's artistic development, but in his growth as a person, his capacity to extend to others the recognition he had once received. Ready? He asked as Marcus returned the sketchbook to the young artist. Marcus nodded, looking back once at the gallery, his name prominent in the window, his work illuminated inside, a testament to talent, perseverance, and the transformative power of being truly seen. Ready? He confirmed, stepping forward into the continuing journey, the becoming that had no endpoint, only evolution, growth, possibility. The greatest gift, Gloria and Jonathan had given him not just artistic opportunity, but the understanding that talent, when recognized, nurtured, supported, could transcend circumstance, could create not just art but meaning, purpose. Legacy's drawing that had once been thrown in the trash, now reclaimed, transformed, celebrated, along with all that had followed, all that was yet to come.